air. It's been forever. I'm just saying hello to familiar faces. I still hear it too. Back up size of your boy. The church. Hey. I'm continuing to see. In fact, I sent them what the service is about. Her niece is we're not worried about what their marriage is. Nervous about everything. I've become addicted to audio books and I watch news and I watch things all the time. So I just wonder if I see what's happening in there. I go, I'm going into the celebration. I can't hardly believe it. I can't.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Hickson. I am the incoming vice president for the new church year starting in 2 days. It is my privilege and honor to be here to welcome you to TVUC this morning. On behalf of the board and the program council, you are welcome here today. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your journey, you are welcome here. If you would like more information on our church, there is a visitor card in the pocket in front of you, or you can visit me at the welcome table. And if you're watching online, you can go to tvuc.org and select Stay in Touch. And that's our virtual visitor card. And speaking of the members and friends watching online, if we could all say hello to them at the count of 3. Say hello, 1, 2, 3. Hello. Thank you for that. Just a reminder that even if you're watching this recording days later, you are welcome in this space. All of who you are is sacred, and all of who you are is welcome. If you're visiting with small children, there is an RE program going on right now. You can visit Maddie or Gregorio at the children's table, or if they'd like to stay with you during the service, there's a carpet up front that they can sit where they can see and hear better. If you have extra tiny ones and they get a little fussy and you need to step out, the glass enclosed room back here is the E. Cummings room. It is soundproof, but don't feel obligated to use it. We welcome all wiggles and giggles and all. Got just a few announcements this morning. The first one is from Beloved Community. A big thank you to the church family. Juneteenth, June 19, 2025 was very successful. The Martin Luther King Commemorative Commission invited the entire community to join in a day of unity, remembrance, and celebration, commemorating the abolition of slavery in Texas and in the United States on June 19th of 1865. The Beloved Community Committee, with the support of TVUC, provided a booth. Several of our members participated in the parade. Many thanks to the presence and support of Barbara Lamb, Mark Mahundro, Mary Rogie, Lisa and Roderick Shields, Elnora Williams, Casey Clark, Eddie Chen, Kimmy, Chloe Rowley Walters, Claudia Presley, Judy and Gordon Gibson, Carolyn Rogers and Paul Davis. A big thank you is also extended to the speakers, Helen Rivers, Reverend John Coffey, and Worship Associate Elnora Williams for presenting the 2 Juneteenth worship services, along with Music Director David Asbury, the musicians, and the singers. From Beloved Community Committee, Patsy Farmer, Elise Ehring, Mary Rogie, Eddie Chen, Lisa Shields, Gloria Aroldi Waters, Seema Singh, MJ Aiken, and Eleanor Williams. Thank you. Thank you, UUA General Assembly attendees, Patsy Farmer, Mark Mahundro, and Catherine Farmer, who were in Baltimore, Maryland last week. And a special welcome and thank you is extended to today's speaker and member, Reverend John Coffey. The worship associate today is Jennifer Fowler. The second announcement is from myself for Pride. So the last 2 Saturdays have been Pride here in Knoxville, South Knox week before, and then yesterday was West Knox. We had great turnout at both. It was incredibly hot, but a lot of people turned up and showed their support. A big thank you to everyone that came to help work the booth, set it up, break it down. All the help was greatly appreciated. And the final announcement is from UU The Vote. They are hosting next Sunday's First Sunday Lunch Potluck, and there's going to be a slideshow of photos during the potluck, and so everyone is invited to email Ken photos of TVU seers showing up and causing some good trouble. You can see Ken for his email or find him in Realm. Today's offering all goes to the operating fund, so this is not a Share the Plate Sunday. Everything you give today will go directly to the operating fund, and we all know the budget's tight, so if we can give a little extra today, that would greatly help. You can text give and the amount you want to give TVUC and the amount you wish to give to 73256. There's also a handy-dandy QR code in your order of service. There are other ways to give that are listed next to that QR code, and if you're watching online, just click on the Give or Give Now button or bar. It'll take you directly to the secure payment server. Today's flowers are provided by Sarah Phillips in memory of her mother, Clara Phillips. You can see Matthew Blondell if you would like to honor someone with flowers. These are beautiful today. Please join us for coffee and conversation after the service in the fellowship hall. If you're new here, it's to the right as you came in the door instead of turning left to come in here. Just look for the horde of people gathered around the coffee pot. And now, if you will please silence your electronic devices as we enter into worship together. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Fowler, and I'm here today to assist the worship leader, John Coffey. I'm sure all of you know John. He's a community minister affiliated with this church, and he and his husband, Keith, have been members of this church for at least 10 years, perhaps longer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome. 10 years ago this past Thursday, Keith and I stood on the stage in World's Fair Park in front of what felt like the entire city of Knoxville. I was humbled to be sharing that space with Doctors Sophie Jesty and Val Tanko, and the attorney Regina Lambert, Mayor Madeline Rajero, and our own Reverend Chris Bice. Someone put a bullhorn in my hand and said, "Say something." And my mind went blank. I believe there are very few times in a person's life when they have exactly the right thing to say at exactly the right time. And for me, that was it. I said the only thing that came to my mind. Knoxville, I'd like to introduce you to my husband, Keith. We began our service today with Ashkan Farewell, a piece not of triumph, but of poignant memory. It asks us to consider what comes after the happy ending. On this weekend, 10 years after the Supreme Court affirmed marriage equality, this might feel like a farewell to a simpler hope we once held. A farewell to the idea that the story was over and our happy ending was here. But we gather today in a time when we know our happy endings can be threatened. And we realize more deeply than ever that our work is not done until everyone is entitled and has the right to their own happy ending. On this Sunday morning, we gather in that spirit of love and memory to profess our own joy and fight for the joy of others. As we kindle the courage to move forward, come, let us worship together. I'm going to tell a story this morning, and I need your help. This one doesn't have props like the last time I preached, so don't worry. This is a story about Ilara, the stargazer. Ilara was a person who watched the skies. And this is a story about her, but it is also a story about us and the nature of hope. Once, in a quiet little house on a quiet little hill, there lived a young person named Ilara. Can you be shh with me? Can you do that with me? Shh. Quiet little house on a quiet little hill. More than anything, what Ilara wanted to do was find a brand new star, a tiny point of light that no one in all of history had ever seen before. So every single night, she would take her telescope to the window and scan the vast, dark sky. Through cold nights that made her shiver, can you shiver with me? Brr. Through cloudy nights that tested her patience, can you tap your foot with me, like you're impatient? And through nights that she was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open, can you yawn with me? She kept watching. She kept searching. Then one night, she saw it. A tiny, perfect, shimmering light where before there had been only darkness. Her heart leaped. She checked her charts. She held her breath. She looked again. It was real. The world's community of astronomers confirmed it. She had discovered a new star, and Alara was given the honor of naming it. And she chose a name that described the feeling in her heart. She named it Constant Hope. Her work was done. Her dream had come true, and she lived happily ever after. But the next night, Alara knew her discovery was real. She knew her star was officially on the charts, and she let out the biggest, most relieved sigh in the world. Can you let out a sigh with me? All that work, all that waiting was over. Alara thought that was the end of her story. But the next night, as she went to her telescope, not to search, but just to admire her beautiful star, Constant Hope, when she looked, something was wrong. The star was flickering. One moment it was bright, and the next minute it was so dim she could barely see it. Can you squint with me and look really hard into the sky? So she took her telescope and she polished the end of it. She said, She reread her charts, but night after night it was the same. Her perfect, constant star was not constant at all. It was fragile, and she was terrified it might go out forever. When Alara saw her star flickering in the sky, her heart felt wobbly, uncertain inside her chest. Let's feel that for a moment. Can you feel the wobbly pounding of your heart? For a few nights, Alara felt sad and scared. But then, as she sat watching the fragile light, she realized something profound. Maybe her job wasn't to find the star. Maybe that was just the beginning. Maybe her job was to watch over it. She realized that discovering something was an act of seeking, but tending to something was an act of love. So she started what she called her stargazer's log. Every night she would write down what she saw. Tonight she wrote, "Constant hope is bright and strong, and I am grateful." On other nights she wrote, "The flicker is back. It worries me, but I am still watching." She also recognized that she couldn't do this alone. This was too important. She reached out to her friends on the phone. Can you do that with me? Bring, bring. She reached out to her friends on the phone. She reached out to other stargazers from all over the world. She sent them text messages and emails. "I need your help. The star I found, Constant Hope, is flickering. I'm realizing I can't watch over it by myself. Will you watch it with me?" And from every corner of the earth, the message came back, "Yes, we will watch it with you." They made a promise to each other. Some might call it a covenant, to be a little on the nose. They would take turns watching the sky. When one person was tired, another would look and watch. When one person felt hopeless, another would remind them of the nights when the stars shone brightly. They became a community of watchers. Their new shared purpose wasn't to find something new, but to care for the precious, fragile light they had already found together. This quiet, hopeful work. The work ahead of us is not unlike that of that community of stargazers. When we look up at the sky and we feel despair for the way the world looks right now, we can remind each other of the way the world has been, of the light that has shone in the past and will shine again. Alara the stargazer learned that the happily ever after wasn't the moment she found the star. The real story, the real beauty, the after, ever after, was the loving, everyday work of watching over that light. Hope is not a destination that you arrive at or a prize that you possess. It is the promise we make to one another to show up for the light, especially when it flickers. It is the promise that we will never have to watch over it alone. And that is our story for this morning.
Please rise, embody your spirit. Sing the hymn in the hymnal, which I forgot to bring with me. So 131, I believe.
Every Sunday, we take a time in our service to acknowledge the joys and concerns in our community as a testament to our shared lives together, the light that we tend. If you have a joy or concern to share or would just like to speak with a member of the spiritual care team, we welcome you to call or text the pastoral care line. The number is in your order of service and on our website. This morning, we celebrate with Carol Villaverde. She's very happy to share that what started out as a concern about her vision on Tuesday became a great joy on Friday. After she learned she had an incorrect cataract transplant, she had corrective surgery, which resulted in 20/20 vision for her right eye. Yeah. We are also thinking of Marion Von Beck, who is delighted to share that she moved to Prime West on Wednesday. She says that she's enjoying good meals and she's happy with the socialization. Yesterday, the Smoky Mountain Storytellers entertained about 60 of the residents. Her granddaughter visited and told her, "This place feels good." We also are thinking of Linda Randolph, who is at home and in good spirits. She will start immunotherapy for her lungs and has a physical therapist working with her at home. She welcomes visits but prefers phone calls. Jenna Mashburn says that you can look forward to enjoying her sardonic humor once again very soon. We're also thinking of Chaz Barber, who writes, and this was too good not to read in his own words. "In about 2 weeks, I'll be having open heart surgery. It will take a few weeks to recover, I'm told, so I regret that we will have to take a break until about September. Surgery will be at UT with a surgeon who arrived a couple years ago from Emory. I'm not as worried or as scared as people seem to expect me to be, except that I hear that early recovery is painful. I don't like pain. Anyone can know. It's a gossipy world and I'm too old to care. The surgery date has not been set other than early July. I have more tests this week. I feel fine unless I work too hard." So we'll be thinking of Chaz. We also celebrate with Jackson Horton, who reported to me just before the service that he will be having his tonsils out on Wednesday the 2nd. and he is very happy about that. And finally, we are celebrating at the end of Pride Month all of the celebrations that have happened in downtown, Sono Pride and West Knox Pride yesterday, thinking of all the folks who have shown up for our community. With these joys and concerns on our hearts and those left unspoken, I invite you to join in our congregational response. The words are printed in your order of service, and you may remain seated.
Ten years ago, on June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court handed down a decision that felt, to many of us, like the culmination of a long, hard-fought story. The majority opinion felt like a profound national statement on love, dignity, and what it means to belong. As we read these words, we take ourselves back to that day of good news. We hear in these words the promise of an ever after, a promise sealed with the final, powerful phrase, "It is so ordered." And now from the opinion itself. No union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, and sacrifice, and family. In forming a marital union, two people become something greater than they once were. As some of the petitioners in these cases demonstrate, marriage embodies a love that can endure even past death. It would misunderstand these men and women to say they disrespect the idea of marriage. Their plea is that they do respect it. They respect it so deeply that they seek to find its fulfillment in themselves. Their hope is not to be condemned to live in loneliness, excluded from one of civilization's oldest institutions. They ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. The Constitution grants them that right. The judgment of the Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit is reversed. It is so ordered.
Our offering is a tangible expression of our shared work together. It is how we pool our resources to build the land that we dream of. As we prepared for this act of generosity, our offertory music is the song North by Sleeping at Last. This piece was chosen because its lyrics speak of a long journey to find our true north, a place of safety, of belonging and love. 10 years ago, the fight for marriage equality was that journey for so many of us, a fight for the right, as the song says, to call it home. Let us listen now and give generously to ensure this home remains a beacon for all who are still searching for their way.
We will call this smaller than dust on this map, lies the greatest thing we have, the dirt in which our roots may grow, and the right to call it home.
This reading is from After the Good News by Nancy MacDonald Ladd. Hope, after all, is not just another version of optimism. Optimism tells a preordained narrative. It is an assertion that the scales have already been tipped toward triumph. Optimism is always busy absolving somebody. Hope is different. Like faith, hope is the exact opposite of certainty. It does not presume an outcome for good or for ill. It lies in the waiting moment when the tug from both directions is not yet fully resolved, and when a great many things are still possible. It moves in the humble spaces that open when we allow ourselves to be uncertain and thus not fully self-contained. It is the possibility, though not the inevitability, of a better way. Philosopher Hannah Arendt declares, "Even in the darkest of times, we have the right to expect illumination, a light that some men and women in their lives and works will kindle under almost all circumstances and shed over their time span that was given to them on earth." We have the right to expect some illumination, even in the shadow of the dead utopias. Even if we cannot expect to stand in the sunshine of pure promise, we can expect that both hope and meaning are evident in our interconnected lives. We are bound always to the ground of our being, the truth of our deepest selves, and the network of accountability we form with one another. Hope does not require ease. It does not require naivete. It is real, tangible, and enduring, even after the good news has all been declared, even when the authentic stories of our lives do not have a fairy tale happy ending, middle, or end. Please rise in body or spirit, and we will sing hymn number 121 in the Great Hymnal.
As is our tradition, please change the word land to love. We'll build a love.
In her Nobel lecture in 1993, the great Toni Morrison told a story about young people who confront an old, wise woman in their village. The woman is blind, but she's also a seer of truth. The young people want to expose her for the fraud that she is, so they hold in their hands a bird, and they ask her, "Old woman, is this bird we hold dead or alive?" The wise woman knows that if she says dead, they either found it that way or they made it that way. And she knows if she says alive, they will crush it. So she answers simply, "I do not know. But what I do know is that it is in your hands." 10 years ago, after our ever after moment, we stand here holding a fragile bird called hope. And the world is asking us, is it dead or alive? The answer, I believe, is still in our hands. The day leading up to that stage in World's Fair Park was a whirlwind of confused logistics. We met in the church lobby that day to be ready for the onslaught of people that we knew would be lining up to get married. We rushed to the county courthouse when we heard that they were already issuing marriage licenses. We went to the bistro at the Bijou while we waited for Tennessee to figure out what it was going to do with the paperwork. The bistro at the Bijou is a cool place in Tennessee history because at that time it was famous for refusing to serve congresspeople who had voted in favor of the state's Don't Say Gay bill. So they closed the restaurant for us and allowed us in, gave us lunch and drinks while we waited. Then we went back to the courthouse. We got a piece of paper that's right there. They scratched out bride and groom and wrote applicant 1 and 2. And you can still see it on this document. And this is a copy. I thought that when they would issue a new copy that they would have fixed it, but no, it's the original handwriting, and I'm so glad it's still there. There were microphones, an emergency cake, thanks Stephanie, tuxedo t-shirts, so many details that bring color to the story of that day. But the thing about color is that it cannot shine without the light. And that day, besides the light that shone from Keith's face, as I looked into his eyes and said, "I take you as my husband," was the light from all the friends and family who were a part of that day. If you were a part of that day, can you just give me a great big wave? There were so many people. And not just those who were present, but those who had told me the stories over the years of the work that they had done. I was reminded of that last night when I got an email from Walter Davis reminding me that they had been married for 50 years in New Mexico? New Mexico. Every happy ending is a testament to the giants, the cloud of witnesses of those who come before. And that day was no different. Right here in this church, on these steps in Knox County, Keith and I became one of the first same-sex couples to be legally married in the state of Tennessee. It felt like the happy ending to a long story. It felt like the moral arc of the universe had not just bent, but had made a decisive lurch towards justice that day. For Keith and me, and for so many others, this wasn't an abstract legal theory. It was the key to our lives. We built a home in the eyes of the law and in the heart of this community. This was the feeling so beautifully captured in the song North, the feeling of finally having the right to call it home. But ever after is not a destination. And here, my friends, we must be honest with ourselves, not just as people of conscience, but specifically as Unitarian Universalists. There is a deep temptation in a faith like ours, a faith that has so often been on the right side of history, to become comfortable. We look back at the giants of the civil rights movement. We look at our own hard-won victory for marriage equality, and we tell ourselves a story that we have arrived. We soothe ourselves into believing that we are living in the happy ever after that our ancestors dreamed of. This came to light for me a few years back when I was preaching in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and I had done a homestay the night before. Some members of the congregation were hosting me. It was an older gay couple, and we were sitting out in their backyard around a campfire, and we were talking about the differences between then and now. And the topic of what it meant to be a young person growing up came up. And the folks I was talking to, they told me, they said, you know, it's just so much better than it used to be. And I get where they were coming from. I get that at the time that they grew up, it was life-threatening to be who they were. It was a terrifying, horrible time. But these days, it's not the same, but it's very similar. And while we're comfortable, the ground begins to shake because the story keeps going. And 10 years after our victory, we live in the shadow of a very different Supreme Court. A court whose recent decisions have eroded the rule of law, dehumanized trans and non-binary siblings, denied health care to millions, and empowered the unmarked and anonymous roundup of our immigrant neighbors in the night. In this community, right here in Knoxville, and even in our own congregation, families have moved away to escape transphobic laws, which would deny their children health care, and legal residents have had their legal status thrown into jeopardy over infractions as small as speeding tickets 10 years ago. This is the terrifying desperation of our moment. A desperation that whispers in our ear, what if the moral arc of the universe doesn't bend? Or worse, what if it breaks? In these moments, we feel exactly like we are Alara the Stargazer. We spent so long searching the sky, and we finally found our star of constant hope. We celebrated. We thought the work was done. And now we look through the telescope again and polish the lens. And our hearts feel that wobbly beat because the light we thought was constant and guaranteed is flickering before our very eyes, and we're terrified it might go out. In moments of fear, when our own belonging feels threatened, the most dangerous impulse is to find someone else to vilify, to create an other so that we can feel safe. And I have to confess, I am not immune to this. I know this impulse intimately. When I was first coming out to myself, grappling with my own identity, I thought the only way I could be secure was to adopt transphobic views of the culture at large. It gave me something I was not by which to define what I was. I was gay, and I'm not proud of this sentiment, but at least I was not trans. I am ashamed of this period in my life. because it was a desperate act of self-preservation built on the exclusion of others. And this is the very soul of fascism. It is the same strategy being used on a national scale today to secure power by convincing a fearful majority, and not even, to turn against a vulnerable minority. I had to learn to find a better way, but as a nation, I fear we may not do the same. But this is where our faith offers us a lifeline. Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd, who we heard earlier, teaches us that hope is not the same thing as optimism. Optimism is the passive belief that things will get better on their own. Hope is the active, rugged choice of making things better with no guarantee of success. Jesus taught that faith like a mustard seed could move mountains. But as Reverend Ladd reminds us, we often misinterpret this parable. Because you see, a mustard seed doesn't grow where it's planted, neatly and in straight rows. No, it's a lot more like mint when it escapes your garden. It grows into a tenacious, unruly weed. It is tough, it is messy, and it grows where it is not wanted. I like to think that this is what the kingdom of heaven, the beloved community, looks like. In Ladd's words, a tenacious weed shall outgrow them all, and everything you thought was sacred will be upended by the odd, imperfect things you always overlooked. This tenacious, weedy, mustard dandelion hope calls us to a different kind of work. As a longtime sci-fi and fantasy nerd, it reminds me of the concept in role-playing games called world building. We have a tradition in this congregation of singing "We'll Build a Love," but I think it could be modified too to "We'll Build a World." Because you see, in role-playing games, world building isn't about being handed a finished map. It isn't about being handed a completed story. It's the messy, ongoing, collaborative act of creating the world as you live, move, and exist in it. The story expands and the map gets bigger with every choice we make, every path we take. It is a creative effort that goes far beyond any one single story or gaming session. And this, I believe, is the spiritual work we are called to now. Not just 10 years after that hot day in June, but a day like today. A day that is always now, because it is what comes after everything that came before. We live on the shoulders of giants among the clouds of witnesses. The spiritual work we must do now is a kind of divine world building, calling us to sing a different song, not just that love will guide us, but that this is a land we must build, where all siblings are cherished, all are warmed, and all are free. Built so that trans people are able to be who they are. Built so that our immigrant neighbors do not live in fear. Built so that everyone has what they need to survive. Built so that weather and climate do not run away with us. Built so that our history can be told in its good, bad, and ugly. This spiritual world building is a description of future collaborative work, not a statement of present reality. It is our shared story, waiting to be written. Like the stargazer, the work we do now will not be the thrill of new discovery, and not just the thrill of new liberations. It will also be the quieter, deeper, more faithful work of becoming that community of watchers. It is the work of showing up night after night, especially on the cloudy nights when the light is hard to see, on those cold nights when the warmth is hard to feel, to watch over that fragile light together. It is the work of sharing our efforts, of taking turns when one of us is tired, of reminding each other that the light is still there. It is the sacred work of believing that our shared attention, our collective care, can keep hope alive in the darkness. This is what it means to be spiritual world builders. So we come back to the bird. Is it alive or is it dead? Looking at the headlines this week from the Supreme Court, from Iran, from our border, just to name a couple, it is easy to believe that that bird is dead. But is it alive? When I see the tenacious, weedy hope growing in this room, when I think of the courage of friends and neighbors who showed up 10 years ago, who show up now, and who will continue to show up in the future, when I see us showing up for rallies and for each other, I have to believe that that little bird is alive. The power of ever after, we now know, is not in the promise of guaranteed happiness, but in the sacred ongoing hope for it. A hope that will keep our hands steady, keep that fragile bird warm, and fuel our journey. That hope is a fire that burns not with easy optimism, but with the fierce, stubborn love of a people who refuse to let the story end this way. To echo Morrison's story, that fire is in our hands. The bird is in our hands. Is it alive or is it dead? I do not know. But what I do know is that it is in our hands. May it be so.
You could remain standing or seated while we sing hymn 1028 in the teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment.
Fire
Prophetic Church, the world awaits your liberating, tenacious, mustard, dandelion, not optimism, but hope. Go forward in that power and proclaim the truth that keeps us free. As our last act of worship, I invite you to turn and greet your neighbors.